Okay, hello again. This is my sculpting video, and this is little William, or that's what we call him at the moment. We may change his name. Basically, what I'm going to do now is build a body for him. Now you can do the body with the head on, or you can do the body separately. I'm going, because I've baked the head and I like to bake it and then put it aside, I'm going to make the body separately, but leave a hole so that I can slot the head into it. So what I need to start with is a stick to build the body around. So I'm going to go and get that now. Okay, I found an old brush that's about the same width as the head, so I'm going to use this to gauge sort of how wide a hole I need in the body for the head to slot in. So I'm going to get some wire and use this kind of as a gauge. Right, I'm just going to twist this wire around to secure it. So I need to decide which. So this is obviously going to be the body, but I need it either in front of or behind this part here. And I think because the spine generally goes down the back of a body, I think I'm going to have it like that. So that will slot in behind the main torso, and I can twist the shoulders back a little bit, a bit like a shoulder, what do we call it, collarbone. So basically it's going to go like that. I just need to measure my torso. I need it about 4 inches because it's going to be about 4.5 inches when I actually, that's 3 inches, so I need the torso to be 4.5 inches because the torso is always 1.5 the height of the head. So I'm just going to start applying foil onto this, but obviously leave a gap. So I'll just put a bit of foil on this to start with. It's just a fairly smooth surface to grab hold of. And that can go like that, so I need to start building up the foil around the brush. Not everybody does it this way, it's just how I do it. I can only show you how I do things. And I don't always do it the same way every time either. So if I do another video and I'm doing it a different way, you know, we all find ways to do things and we improve along the way. So this foil I'm using, I bought it on the internet. I've been pinching foil from the kitchen for years, much to the horror of my husband, where every time he went in to get some foil out of the cupboard, there wasn't any. So I found this foil on the internet. Jameer was using it and I looked for it, and it was like Christmas. Never looked back since. So exciting. I get excited over the silliest little things, and tin foil is one of them. When you use something a lot, and it's always a bit of a headache whether you've got enough in. You're starting a new project and you're thinking, oh, have I got any foil? And then you find a catering pack of foil on the internet. There's nothing quite like that feeling. Right, so I'm just building up the body. I don't need all that much wire, so I'm just going to cut it off. It's really annoying me. So the legs don't come straight down. They come out of the hip, and they, on the baby's legs, they tend to be upwards really, or outwards anyway. And then the torso comes down lower than that because the legs are not at the bottom of the torso. They go into the hip joint, which is approximately at the top of the baby's bottom, really. Right, so although the torso is going to be quite a bit wider and more built up than that, I am not going to add any more foil because I tend to like to build it up quite a bit with clay. I know it's a waste of clay, but it's how I like to do it. So I'm going to leave it like that for the foil. I'll be adding more to the arms and the legs when I come to do them, possibly, possibly not. But for now, I'm going to start adding some clay to this part now. Right, I'm not going to put the clay through the pasta machine at this stage. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because it's not going to be the finished bit. So I'm just going to start applying it fairly thickly around the whole body. A lot of people do apply masking tape to the foil after you've put the foil on. I don't. I think some foils you can get a nasty black fingers from it. I don't know. Maybe it's the foil I use. I've never had that, or maybe I just won't put the clay on quickly enough that it doesn't do that. But you can put masking tape on top of your foil, and it will protect your fingers from and the clay from getting dirty. As I say, I've never had that problem, so I've never really done it. I probably will this time. It doesn't really matter if your clay gets a grey looking, because at the end of the day, if you're making a silicone baby, you're going to be moulding it and putting it in silicone, so it doesn't actually matter what colour the clay is. But obviously it's not very pleasant to work with dirty clay. But it's not the end of the world if you've done a lovely sculpt and it starts going a bit dirty. You don't have to worry too much about it. You can clean it, I believe. So around the neck, I'm just going to assume that the head's going to slot into there. I might have to do some adjustments, but basically that's where the head's going to go. I don't know if it's going to fit just yet. Yeah, there we go. So that's how it's going to be, but I'm going to work with it just with the just with the brush in. Make sure I don't squish the hole, and then I can I can work and I can keep fitting the head in to see what it looks like, because there's nothing like, you can't really see whether the body's going to look right until you put the head on. Okay, this must be really boring, so I'm going to switch the video off while I finish this, and then I'll switch it back on in a few minutes. Right, just showing you around the bottom section. As I say, the hip comes out not at the bottom of the torso, this is built up more, but it comes out either side, and the baby's leg, often they're just sitting with their legs up like a little frog, and I'm going to have this baby lying like that, with his legs quite bent. Not totally bent, because if you do them totally bent, you can't then straighten them because they'll stick together in the silicone, which I'll show you what I mean later. So these little legs are going to be reasonably podgy, because I do like podgy legs, and I can't seem to do thin legs, so they always end up quite podgy. I'm not going to sculpt the legs now, I'm just going to show you the position of the hips and the bottom, the baby's bottom. So as you build up the width of the thighs, obviously they come downwards and then they go into just straight into the bottom. I'll zoom in a bit more now. So this is all padding here. Some babies have very little, tiny little bottoms. In fact, most newborns hardly have a bottom at all. Just little. Sorry, keep getting carried away and going off camera. So basically, what you've got is a sort of rounded thing that goes into the leg, straight into the leg like that, and then you've got your thigh coming round there and your thigh coming round there. It's all going to be more built up than this, and the tummy kind of comes out in a smile round there and is all built up here. So that's what you've actually got. Your legs are actually coming from here, but the bottom carries on down here and around. Like so. Very, very rough, obviously. So I'm going to put some more clay on the actual torso, the actual tummy. I'm using the word torso because obviously I'm talking about this part of the body rather than the whole body as in the limbs. I'm not being super technical, medical technical or anything. I'm just helping identify the bits I'm talking about. Now these can be quite thick because his tummy's going to be quite big, quite podgy. On the whole, the width of the torso is about the same as the width of the head, approximately. Not always, some are fatter, some are thinner, but as a rule of thumb, I found that if you can kind of use that as a gauge, then that's quite a useful thing to kind of go by. So what happens is the head is here, and from the neck, which is hardly noticeable on the baby, I do put a neck in because I need the baby's head to be able to turn quite freely in the silicone, and then from there it comes up and straight into the belly, and then back down and then round quite sharply. Particularly if the baby's just been fed, bless them. Have you just been fed, William? Nice big full belly. And not to forget to continuing it at the sides. He's not a pregnant woman sticking out at the front. It carries on at the sides as well. So we're putting it on really roughly at the moment, more or less just drafting in the shape. A lot of it you can't really teach. It's something you just do. You'll learn to do. You'll do it by trial and error. You'll get it wrong. You'll start again. You'll get it wrong. You'll change it. But always remember that if you did it once and you got it right, if you mess it up, it doesn't matter. You can do it again. If you did it once, you can do it again. No problem. So never be afraid. Never be afraid thinking, oh, that looks great, but if I do this, I might mess up what I've done. Just do it. Go for it. If you can do it once, you can do it again. It may take a few tries, but you only learn by having a go, really. So, just getting the basic shape of the belly. I'm going to leave his little boy bits to the very end because I'm not overly worried about it. You sometimes see people who are beginners, and they'll do the body. They haven't done the head yet, and they put the genitals on, and I'm thinking, well, why do that at the beginning? I actually hate doing that bit. Right, the back is quite flat. It doesn't have a huge curve on it. With the legs being up, it might have a bit of a curve rounded wise, but newborn babies tend not to have that S shape that we all have, where it goes in just before the bottom. They tend to just be curved round, the very newborn ones. It's only really when they start wanting to sit up or crawl that they get that sort of S shape of the spine. So if we're going to be, I mean, it's quite cute actually to see it like that. When you see silicone babies or sculpts, and they've got that sort of small of the back goes inwards, it does look quite cute. But actually, I don't think many babies actually have that. I might be wrong. I'm sure people will tell me if I'm wrong. It's amazing how people make comments on the videos telling me I've got it wrong or whatever. It's fine. I never claim to be an expert at all. Just want to help people get on their way. There he is. Blob on the shoulders. Okay, so that's a start. I think I still need to build it out widthwise a bit more. Maybe not. That's probably about right, really. Yeah, I think it's probably about right. Okay, so I'm going to have a little break and then I'll carry on with it. See you in a minute. Okay, I'm back. I'm just going to push on with fiddling with this, really. Under the arms, obviously, there's a little bit that goes in. We need to not have the arms pasted next to the body for moulding. We need to have a bit of a space. So some of the things I do will be designed not so much for realism, but because it's easier for getting them into silicone. But at the moment, that's not too bad as a start. I'm going to put some more layers on, but just very fine layers, so I can start sort of fine sculpting, really. Just make sure it's even, it's symmetrical. I don't think it is, actually. I think there's more. We need a bit more building up on this side. So I'm going to start using my my pasta maker. Those who haven't come across it, it's brilliant for making nice smooth sheets of pasta, basically, of clay, not pasta. Obviously pasta's what it was intended for. So I'm just going to run this roll through and it gives me a sheet. I can make it thinner. I think I'll make it a teeny bit thinner. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I think I needed some more on this side, so I'm just going to lay it across and smooth it in. Some babies have more of a sort of divided between the little chest and the belly. And then others, some just go straight into the belly. Some have a kind of little chest thing going on. They're all different. See how I feel about this one, how it turns out. I think I'll probably have it more just going straight into the belly. Have some more sheets. I think I'm going to build up the belly a little bit more. Here, so that she's got a really podgy kind of splayed out, or he's got a really podgy splayed out belly, and then he can have little podgy legs. Because even though he's tiny, he's a mini, he's not a preemie. Preemie babies have different proportions. Their heads are bigger in proportion to their body than a newborn. A newborn, the head is about a quarter of the size of the whole body. With a preemie, it's probably more like a third. It's quite big, the head, because the rest of the body hasn't. It's being born as a fetus, basically, a very early micro preemie. So just early babies, they're more or less newborn proportions, but a very early baby, a micro preemie, say born at about 24 weeks, 26 weeks, their heads are bigger in proportion to their body. They may have a bloated belly, but their legs and arms are scrawny, like really thin. Whereas this is going to be, he's only 12 inches, so he's a mini, so he's like a miniature newborn. So he's going to be newborn proportions. Not preemie proportions. Nice big belly. It's always good to have reference pictures, either off the internet, or if a friend has a baby, get permission to take some photographs of their baby to get idea. I've got a picture of a baby in front of me. I can't show it to you because it's somebody's actual baby, but I always go from photographs, go from reference photographs, because even if you've had several babies yourself, you don't remember exactly how they go. Well, I wouldn't have ever would. I couldn't do it just off the top of my head. So don't be afraid to use photographs for reference. Obviously, get permission if you're going to take photographs of somebody's baby, but it's always a good idea to work from several different photographs and take what you like from each of the photographs. So if you like the shape of a belly on one baby, and you like the way the legs go on another, as long as they go together, not a scrawny belly and big fat legs or anything like that, then go for it. Mix it up a bit. Right, I'm just going to add some padding on the thighs, because having a nice big belly there, the thighs look a bit scrawny now. So I'm going to put some padding over the top there. So there'll be lots of rolls of fat on these baby legs. And it must be really boring watching these videos, but people say they like them, so I thought, well, rather than editing a load out, I'll put more or less all of it in. And you can always fast forward the bits you're not interested in. We're actually, Jamira and I are thinking about doing some sessions, some actual one-to-one sessions with people who want to learn how to make silicone babies. We're in the UK, so if you're in the UK and you're interested in learning this, coming to some classes, say like a residential course or something like that, then get in touch with us, because we are seriously thinking about doing that. It's one thing to watch somebody doing this, it's another thing to actually get your clay out yourself and have a go. It's helpful, but sometimes you just need somebody there the first few times you do it. I went on a sculpting course after I'd started making the babies, but I went on a sculpting course a couple of times. It was so much fun. It was really good, just having somebody there guiding you. Right. Put this out a teeny bit more. He's not got a particularly podgy face, but it's not scrawny, so I think he can get away with a fairly podgy body. I use very few tools at this stage. I just use my fingers to place the clay on where I need it. Apologies for that position. It's not the position you really want to look at, is it? A bit better. I'm just going to check the size because we need this to be 4.5 inches. It's more like 5 inches, so it's a bit too long. I'm just going to push it in. Yep, that's perfect. And then we can redo it to that size. As I said before, don't be worried about making changes. Don't be worried about getting it wrong. You did it once, you can do it again. Push the tummy up a bit. There we are. See, I did too much smoothing before. I didn't check it before I smoothed it. That's always a mistake. Yeah. Lots of it's just a case of doing smoothing, changing, smoothing, turning it over, smoothing, turning it back over, finding it's gone out of shape again, smoothing again. Just keep going. Just keep playing with it. You can see it's completely gone out of shape again, which is fine. It's fine. Right, I'm going to do some more sculpting, more of this smoothing and that off camera, because it must be really boring, this part, and I'll come back in a few minutes. Okay, I'm still going strong. I'm just gonna, this is the back of the baby obviously. When you look at the top of it, the chest, the rib cage comes out here, the collarbones go back into the shoulder here and here, and here you get the shoulder blades. So they're not very visible, but we need to make sure that they're there. They're only quite small. So I'm just going to build that in. I'm not going to have them showing particularly, but we need to make sure that the body is the right shape for them. Pepper! A dog barking. Probably it's an aeroplane or something. Maybe the postman. What's he barking at? He's barking at me because I'm talking to myself. I better go and see what she's barking at. Back in a minute. No, I suspected there was nobody there. Right. So I'm not going to give this too much detail because I'm going to be building up the arms, and you always get your fingers stuck in these bits, so I'm going to leave this kind of as it is because I'm happy with the basic shape of it and size, and go on to the arms and legs. The hands and feet I won't be doing until the very end. Put a bit more padding in there. Just so that we've got the right proportions for the shoulder blades. I've got a skeleton somewhere to kind of show you. Hang on a sec. Okay, this is obviously a skeleton of an adult, and it's probably not 100% anatomically correct. When you look down at the rib cage, the collarbones go kind of from the front of the rib cage back behind the shoulders, back, and the shoulder blades come around here. So basically the rib cage is fairly straight, fairly square, and then it goes in for the hips. So that's the kind of shape we're looking at. So yeah, as I say, it's only a cheap and nasty skeleton, so it's not accurate, not dead accurate, but it gives you an idea. So basically what I've got is the collarbone going back and the scapula, the shoulder blades here, and then it's fairly straight down. Then we don't go in for a waist because babies don't really have waists because they just have big bellies. So I'm just going to leave this kind of like it is. Still got the space for putting the head in, and when we put the head in, the body looks about right for the size of the head. Okay. So now the actual length of the legs, the head is 1/4, so the head is 3 inches. The body is 1.5 of the head, which is 4.5 inches, and the leg is 1.5 of the head from the top of the hip. Sorry, not 1.5 of the head, is the length of the head. So the length of the leg from the top of the hip to the bottom, to the heel, will be 3 inches. So we need to get that about right. So that is sort of from there to there. So that is where the heel of the foot will go. Baby's legs are on. Oh, actually, that looks really wrong. Let me just double check that. Yeah, about there. Yeah, that is right. So, no, yeah. I'm talking a load of rubbish here. So, that is 3. That is 3 to the navel. Which is about there. Then from the navel to the knee is about 3. And then to the foot, yeah. So from there to the foot is about 6. I'm going to start this again. Okay, I'm getting myself all tied up in knots over the sizing of this. So basically, that is 1/4. The second quarter is from the torso to the belly. The third quarter is from the top of the hip to the just past the knee, and the last is to the foot. So basically, from the top of the hip to the end of the foot, if the leg was straight down, would be 2 heads. In other words, 6 inches. So we're looking at about 4.5 inches from on this one. So that looks about right. I made a right mess of it first time. So yeah, so it's here. So that's the heel. I need to remember that. So basically, we have obviously in the middle there is the bend either side. Now, as I say, I'm doing this baby sort of so it's got its legs quite far up. I'm going to have one leg down and one leg kind of up like that. For the simple reason I don't want the 2 feet to get too close together, and it looks quite natural. When it's in silicone, it will just flop. The legs will just drop down anyway, to an extent. But this is a position I quite like. Now the arms, I'm going to have them coming from here rather than right in the crease, because I don't want the arms to touch the side of the body. That's where it's not very realistic, really, because you don't get a huge gap between the arms under the armpit. But that's how I like to do mine, because again, like with the neck, which you don't get with the baby, it's easier for making into silicone that way, I think. If you've got a little bit of a neck and you've got a little bit of a gap underneath the arms, you can move the arms a lot easier. So in some ways we don't sculpt exactly as you would if you were making an ornament, say. We sculpt for the movement, for when you get into silicone. So, and the hands on a baby come to just above, just round about the hip. So the hand will be about there and there. So I'm going to actually cut it off at that point, so I know where I am. Right, so that's about what I want as far as lengths go. So now I just build up the clay in the arms and the legs. I'm not going to add foil on these. I know you should really, but I feel more in control if I just put the clay straight onto the wire. So I'm going to do the legs first. And I'm only going to go down to as far as the ankle, because I'm going to be doing the feet and hands off the body separately, and then I'll put them on at the end, because I find it easier to work that way. A lot of people do sculpt the hands on the actual body sculpt, but I don't. I like to get the legs and the body, and then I do the hands and feet elsewhere, and then you come and put it on the body and find that they're too big or too small, but that happens anyway. Babies that have got quite a bit of fat on them, they don't have jaggedy edges. Their knee just more or less, even though you have to be careful that you make sure that that doesn't bend and that doesn't bend, because their legs are so fat, they often do look as if they're actually just bending rather than going a 45-degree angle like that. They sort of actually look like they're just kind of bendy, even though they're not. So you don't have to do a sort of a very ferocious 45-degree angle or whatever. And as you're going along, you just make little tweaks by eye, really. I mean, I was looking at that and thinking that limb look, that long bone, the femur, the bit between the hip and the knee looked too long, so I just sort of like made it a bit shorter. A lot of it is just what looks right by eye. Right, again with the arm. I'm going to have this one quite bent. Better not to have the arm, the hand higher than the elbow, because it's difficult for pouring. So if you want it bent, I think it's better bent forwards, not sideways, and not bent at more of an angle than because when you pour from the top, and if something comes going upwards, if that was going upwards and you poured from the top, the silicone would go in and there would be an air bubble here because it wouldn't go round. You'd have to then keep turning it, and every time you turn it back up again, the air would go to the top of the hand. So if it's like that, you can do it forward. All the air can go up the arm and out, and then out into the pour spout. That's the theory anyway. Can't always get all the bubbles out, but it helps. And when it's in silicone, you can bend it. It's bendy anyway. It's flexible. the width of the arm is again something you just need to kind of do by eye really. They're a lot thinner than the legs. Again, I think I've done the arm too long there. Because actually newborn babies have quite short arms and legs. It's almost like a tadpole with tiny little legs growing as it grows into a frog. I think their arms and legs get bigger in the first few weeks after they're born. But when they're first born, very often their legs and arms are really quite scrawny and tiny. Don't have a lot of muscle tone, so it's just kind of blubber really. There's a little bit more, but I'm gonna switch the video off for a minute while I do this, because again, it's just adding more padding really. Okay, right, I've kind of got the shape I need, and I've placed the brush with a dowel, and I'm using that to prop it up, because this way what happens is you'll do the smoothing on one side, turn it over, and it gets squished again. So I'm trying this out where it's basically going to be just standing on the dowel. So I'm doing the last smoothing, and then I'll start doing things like the wrinkles and details. But what I'm going to do is finish this part, in other words the torso, the thighs and mainly the upper arms, and then I'm going to bake it, because I don't like having to work around the fact that it's fragile, and that I can do the full genitals later, and I can do all of the sort of like the hands and feet and that. I can even do some last bits of smoothing by adding clay onto the baked model, but sculpt. But I don't like, once I get it right, I like to bake it, and then I know I've kind of bagged it. I know it's risky, because then you come back to it and you want to do something, you want to change something, and it's done. It's not impossible to change. You can always pick off the baked clay and rework an area. I've done that many times, but this is how I like to work. A lot of people wait until they finish the whole of the sculpt before they actually bake it at all, and baking it several times is risky in itself, because it can dry out a bit and crack, but that's what I like to do. So I'm just trying to get the areas as smooth as possible, and then I'll add add some little details like the belly button and wrinkles, creases. You can sand it down once once the sculpt is baked, but I prefer to do most of the smoothing before that. I don't actually like. I don't generally do a lot of sanding. Right, just on the small of the back there's a kind of flat area, not the ass shape that I was talking about earlier, but just a kind of flattened area where the, what's it called, the sacrum? No, that flat bit anyway. I'm sure lots of people write in telling me what part of the body that is. Right, so creases. How I do creases so that you don't get just a square line where your knife has gone in. If you put plastic over the area, and the video in closer. So if I was to do a crease here, for instance, stick the plastic down to the clay, and then I get my tool and just gently make the crease. And the plastic gives it a kind of roll, a much more natural fold. What was that all about, Pepper? Is there a bird on your lawn? Again, the deeper creases. You can go in quite deeply and then finish them off. Now the baby's back doesn't have a lot of wrinkles, but Sometimes the odd crease at the side and at the top of the leg like that. Trouble with having the baby upside down, you kind of do things the wrong way around. A very faint indentation where the scapulars join the back. I'm going to be finishing off the shoulder and neck area when I fix the head on, which will be one of the last things we do. I think the arms I'll be doing more work on once it's been cured. I can add extra layers on it, extra clay on top of it, just very fine layers, rather than doing too much right now. Also use the plastic for sort of smoothing to a degree. You don't get the tools digging into the clay so much because you've got that layer of protection between the tool and the actual clay. Right. I need to get to this bit, which I can't do while it's standing on its head. So I'm just going to put it on. I'm going to get a sponge to put it on. Hang on. Right, so I want to work on the the legs. So I'm going to give him a nice deep crease around there. So we have a few little creases going on there, rather cute. Now, slight indentation there up to the sternum. Now that's a sternum. Did I call the other thing the sternum? No, I called that the sacrum, didn't I? I don't know. It's a long time since I did my anatomy. It's a good way of smoothing, but make sure you don't get any creases in the plastic because it'll just transfer the crease to the area you're trying to do. Okay, now I need a belly button. Now the belly button is generally, the torso is 1.5 times the head, but the belly button usually comes about 1 head down. So if the head is 3 inches, as we know it is, the belly button will come about there. So it's about there. About 2/3 of the way down, so I'm going to also, whoops, use plastic for this. First I'm going to do a kind of crease. Belly buttons are another thing that's different on every baby. With a newborn, normally they're protruding, and well, obviously when they're newborn they usually have the umbilical cord still attached. Now I don't really like doing them with the umbilical cord. I like to do just a standard baby belly button, so I'm going to do that. I know it's more realistic to have the black umbilical cord or a belly button, but I prefer to do just a baby belly button, to be honest. And so that's what I'm doing. Just keep going till it looks right to you. That'll do. And what do I look at? Crease in the lower belly. And maybe some, just like little creases. Right, and now we need to do the nipples. Tiny, tiny, tiny. They don't need to be very visible at all. Again, on a newborn baby, they're hardly noticeable at all. So I just get a tiny little teeny bit of clay, quite high up and quite onto the side. I'll just check that that's about right on a picture. Yeah, it looks about right. Out there and there. Just blend them into the belly there. They don't really stick out on a baby. They just are there. And then usually it's just a tiny little, almost a slit, vertical. There we are. Right, so that's some of the detail on the front. Yeah, as I say, I think I'm going to take some of this clay off the arms and do the arms when I've baked it, so that I can more or less redo the so that I can do the arms with the hands when I come to put the hands on. So I'm just going to take the arms tapering down to the shoulders, to the elbows, sorry. It's really difficult to work and talk at the same time, which is why I sometimes say really stupid things, like call things the wrong name or something. Just have to forgive me for that. So the detail in the shoulders again I'll do when I come to put the head on. Just basically going as far as the elbows and the knees really on this one. You won't be able to hear my dog snoring. Righty ho, so I'm quite pleased with that. So much so I might even put his little bits in now, even though I said I wasn't going to. So I just want to make the sack a little bit bigger than it is. I'm not making a song and dance of this. It has to be just a suggestion to my mind, not a work of art. Um, Right, the sack is not smooth, it's all kind of got, it's all wrinkly. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, it's just a suggestion of it. There we go. As I say, I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail. It's just a suggestion. There we are. So there he is. I'm going to do a teeny bit more smoothing off camera, and then I think I'm going to bake him to keep this work, and then I'll carry on doing the hands and feet, and then I'll attach the head and the hands and feet at the end. Okay.